This 3-minute challenge looks at stakeholders in change, the role they play, and how you can engage them to help your organization to thrive in a world that is always changing. Change management is defined as the practice of applying a structured approach to transition an organization from a current state to a future state to achieve expected benefits. Makes sense, but who is responsible for making this happen? Successful change doesn't happen in a silo. A directive can't be given to a project team and then suddenly on the day of go live, the organization just changes. All stakeholders need to be engaged. Stakeholders, as their name implies, are people that have an interest or stake in the change. Stakeholders include sponsors, change agents, and targets. Sponsors are leaders and managers in the business. Change agents are members of the organization, such as project team members that have been charged with implementing the change. Targets are people associated with the business who are impacted by the change. So, how do you engage each of these groups? Engagement should be based on the role of each stakeholder and their responsibilities within the change. In general, leaders are responsible for strategy and decision-making around the change. The project team is responsible for planning and implementing the change, and the business is responsible for operationalizing or owning the change and evaluating its success. Let's look at this in a little more detail. Leaders assess the organization and identify performance challenges. They then decide what actions to take to address performance. Leaders also allocate resources, manage escalations when the project team requires support, and hold themselves and the organization accountable for results. The project team is responsible for planning and implementing the change defined by leaders, including the definition of requirements, development of the solution, and creation of a plan to implement the solution within the business. When the change is ready, the project team implements the change and supports the business as it takes on ownership. The business cares about the change because it is something they will own. Their engagement in validating requirements and determining if the proposed change will actually work is critical. They also have to adjust operationally for the change. When the change is implemented, the business must accept it and monitor operations to ensure that they aren't unduly compromised. Once the change stabilizes, the business will report to leaders on whether or not the benefits were achieved. A couple of final points. Stakeholders can wear multiple hats. If a stakeholder has more than one role, it will be important to understand what is expected of them and when for each role. Finally, everyone needs a voice. Make sure that your governance structure has engagement points for all stakeholders. So, now that you recognize the different stakeholders in change and what they are responsible for, what can you do with this information? Share stakeholder definitions and roles within your organization. Next, define how your organization can build governance models that include all stakeholder groups. Finally, take some time to learn about stakeholders. For example, Accelerated Knowledge has a business-based change model that includes alignment and engagement of stakeholders. Check out our website and other change videos on YouTube. We won't pester you, but you can always feel free to contact us. As you can see, we love to talk about change.